G'day everyone, True here, and welcome to another African violet video. Today I wanted to talk about one of the most horrific, horrible, terrible things that can happen to an African violet grower all over the world, and that's ending up with a cyclamen mite infestation. About 3 months ago, I noticed that some of my plants were starting to just look a little bit unhealthy. And then progressively, they were getting more and more unwell. I started having certain signs happen. I did check with a jeweler's loupe to see if I could see any sign of mites, but my eyesight isn't that great, and I couldn't see any visible signs of like actual insects on the plants. But what I did start seeing is a number of signs that the plant started to grow certain ways that were indicators that they probably have a cyclamen mite infestation. Over the last 3 months, I have been trying numerous methods to try and get rid of them and to try and treat them. And I've tried spraying with chemicals. I've tried different natural remedies such as like repellents such as like garlic water and white vinegar, and I've tried numerous neem oil, tried numerous different things, and continuously doing these treatments. Unfortunately, none have been successful to date. So I have one last treatment left that I'm going to try, and that is hot water treatment, because cyclamen mites can't survive in water that's over 44 degrees Celsius, which I think is around 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't quote me on that, because in Australia we work on Celsius, but I'm pretty sure it's 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So just double check that. You can look that up online. And the heat will actually kill the mites, and in theory shouldn't affect your plants. But I'm at the stage where there's not really anything that I can do apart from that last resort treatment. Otherwise, my entire collection will have to go, because there's nothing else I can do to try and save them. What I do want to do is try and help everyone else out there who's in the same boat to recognize what happens with your plants and how they start growing when you have a cyclamen mite infestation. So today I have numerous examples to show you of things to look out for, because often you won't even see the mites. What you'll see is the growth in the plant will change, and other indicators, because the mites, they grow, they live right in the center, in the center crown, underneath the leaves, right down in that center, and they're so difficult to see. And I have looked and looked and looked, and I can't see them, but I know that there is a cyclamen mite infestation. Often you can, there might be little things that happen. You might have like, certain indicators that could be other things, like, your plant might be getting too much light, or it might be getting too much fertilizer. But when you have a number of these different signs showing up, there's a really good chance, I would say 99.9% chance, that it is cyclamen mite infestation. So today I want to show you these examples on plants of mine, and I will warn you, they are very sick at the moment. They are not well plants. And so if it's like an African violet horror story here. So if you don't like looking at sick African violets, then spoiler alert, don't finish watching this video, okay? Because but in saying that, I haven't given up hope on these plants. I'm hoping that I can, with this heat treatment, that it will get rid of the mites, and it will take time for the plants to recover and grow back, and they may never 100% recover, from the damage that's been caused by the mites. But I still, they're very special to me, and I would like to try and save them, and I'm trying everything possible to try and save them. And hopefully this video will help you detect a cyclamen mite outbreak early and that hopefully you can get it early enough to treat it. Now, how I got the cyclamen mite outbreak, I have no idea. It's obviously come in on one of the plants that I've bought in. There is a chance that because my plants were outside, that maybe another plant outside may have been affected by mites, and that's somehow gotten onto my plants. But it's impossible to really know, unfortunately. But what it has taught me is that when I do bring a plant into my collection, I was isolating them for 3 months. I'll no longer be isolating them for 3 months. I'll be isolating them for 6 months, because and I'll also be doing treatment on that plant when it comes in for that whole period before I let it go into my collection, because it's been devastating, absolutely devastating. And when you have a large collection, and I have a large collection, it's horrific. It's horrific. So let's get into the signs to look out for. Okay, so this plant here, I'm just going to show you numerous ones and point out different things on them. So what you will start happening is you'll have the crowns that start dying off. So you'll get sort of this brownish sort of look, and the new leaves, because African violets grow from the center point here, these new leaves will start dying off. So, and what you'll also get is you'll get sort of tighter crowns. So this central part of the plant will start growing quite close together. So that's one indicator. And you can see there's other different marks on the leaves, but those tight crowns, that's one of the first things that will happen with your plant. Okay, another thing that can happen is that your plant will go hairy. It will get very, very hairy. So you can see on this plant here, it's got a thicker amount of hair on the plant. Again, the crown's starting to die off. You'll also get these distorted leaves. So see how these leaves just aren't growing a normal shape? They're growing a very weird, unusual shape. So you get the distorted leaves, crowns dying off, and very, very hairy. Okay, another thing that can happen is you'll notice that you'll get sort of a curling to the leaves. So you can see on this leaf here a really good example of this, where the leaf edges seem to curl. See how they're curling, there you go, curling in. And the new leaves that are coming through, they're a bit disjointed, not disjointed. They're just not the right shape, and they'll be crinkly as well. So you can see how they're just distorted shapes, and these leaves, they'll get a curling to the edges of the leaves. Here's another example of the crown starting to die off and quite hairy leaves. And that curling, you'll get that curling happening. You'll also get this sort of weird growth. So the plant will start growing in a weird shape. So see how this leaf here, you've got that curling? Because what happens is the mites like to feed underneath, like they feed mainly underneath the leaves. And so often the leaves will sort of have that curling effect to them. You'll also get these little like specks on the leaf, like something's been chewing at them, like these markings on the leaves. And they'll grow in like just a weird way. They just won't grow like a normal shape African violet that grows from the center and out evenly. They'll just grow in weird directions. It's another example, the crown dying off. And these are the markings that you need to look out for. You'll get like these. Now just remember that you can get like birth marking on African violet plants, and that's normal. But this sort of marking where something's been chewing at it, that's not normal. So the crown's dying off on this one again. And sometimes when you look under the leaves, if I can, here, this is a good example, you'll actually see evidence of something's been chewing at the leaf. So you'll see like these markings, and sometimes you'll see these, this is a really good indicator, these little brown, I don't know if you can see it very well, these little brown pits that are in the back of the leaves, because mites like to eat the back of the leaves. You get these little brown pits and these little nibbles that out of the plant. And again, crown dying off. Okay, this one's kind of a good indicator of the distorted growth that you get, and you'll get this really tight, the crown sort of gets tight, so you'll get like this tight center. Just doesn't grow very well. This one again, just you'll get this curling. There's the curling on the leaves. That's a good indicator there. That one, you've got the curling. And see, it curls underneath typically because they like to hide in under the back of the leaves. And as you can tell, this one, it's hairier than it should be. Now, not all the plants will show exactly the same signs and symptoms, but if you typically have 2 or 3 on one plant, it's a pretty good indicator that mites may be your issue. If you have 3 or 4 on a plant and you have a large collection and they're all showing evidence, then because mites do spread very quickly, so always try if you can to make sure you leave good spaces between your plants, but sometimes it's not always easy to do that if you have a large collection. So you just try and do the best you can with it. This is another one where, see, you've got no crown coming through. The crown's died off already. Hairier leaves, distorted growth. This is another one, very hairy leaves. Curled underleaf. And just a very sick looking plant. Another one. They just don't look well. Like you can tell all of them, something just isn't right. They don't look 100% healthy. They just don't look right. This one, another example of the leaves curling under. Very tight little crown in the center, and distorted growth, just not growing the way that it should be. Something I have noticed, and I haven't really got a good example of it, is the new leaves that are coming through that are still there. Sometimes the tiny ones, if you look at the back of them, they'll have like a brownish marks on the back of them, and that is also an indicator. Here, this one here, you can see it's hairier, crown dying off, curled leaves that are curled back. Other one, crown dying off. Now, your crown can die off in your African violets for other reasons, so that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a mite outbreak. But if you have the crown dying off, curled leaves, you can see the back of this leaf here has that brown pitting. Something's been eating it, and you can tell something's been eating it. And it's very hairy, distorted growth. Look at that curled leaf there. That's very curled. And the inner leaves inner center leaves will be crunchy too. Like they won't be healthy feeling. They'll feel crackly, crunchy, just not good. And see the curled under. This one, crown dying off. It's a little bit harder when you've got red back leaves to see the damage on the back of the leaf, but you'll be able to tell. And once you've seen a few of these, you'll know what to look out for. Here's another one, crown's dying off. This one's got a good example of the curled leaf curling under. It's where the mites like to hide, in underneath there. Hairy, distorted growth. Markings on the leaves, or things that have been nibbling at them. What's another one? Here's another one. So as you can see, this is a huge mite infestation that I have. It's huge. It's huge, and it's severe. And the chances of saving a lot of these plants are going to be very slim. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try. It'll be a good opportunity to find something that works. And if the heat treatment works, then that would be amazing. This one you can actually see a good example of the tight centers, the tight crowns, the distorted leaves. And the crowns are starting, you can tell the crowns are starting to die off. This one, it's got that very hairy, extra hairy. Now remember that if your African violet gets too much light, it will go very, very hairy like this. So mites aren't the only reason why an African violet can go really hairy, but just remember that if you've got that really hairy plant, the back of the leaves curled like that. And see, they're crunchy. When you pull, they're crunchy. Distorted growth, evidence of something nibbling at the leaves. So you can see like the little brown specks. And see, the leaves just snap. Like, I know African violet leaves can snap off very easily, but when they're like this from the mites, you just even have to touch them and they will snap off very, very, very easily. So this one here, this one shows you the sort of the markings you'll see on top of the leaves from things nibbling at them. So you'll see these sort of markings here around the edges. You see the crowns just quite tight, curled leaves. So they all have that similar sort of look to them, and it's just a very unhealthy, crowns dying off, you know, or no crown, evidence of no crown, the crown's been completely lost. But remember that other things can cause crowns to die off, like overwatering. So just remember that you have to have more than one thing, really evidence to show that it is a mite infestation. So if you just have one thing, it's not really a good indicator, you know, because there are other things like over-fertilization or too much light, or not enough light, or overwatering or underwatering. There's so many things that can show similar symptoms. But the one thing you have to remember with mites is if you look and look and look and you can't see them, that does not mean they're not there, because they're very, very tiny and very difficult to see. So one of the best ways to know if you have a mite outbreak is by looking for evidence of growth problems with the plant. And a lot of these problems are caused because the mites are sucking all the nutrients out of the plants, and then that's why you start getting this distorted growth and and crowns dying off and because they're eating. They also, you won't get flowers. That's another indicator, because they love to eat the new flower shoots that come through. So you get no flowers, distorted growth. The growth will seem to slow down almost completely. Like your plants will seem to stop growing. That's another indicator. And you get the hairy leaves, crowns dying, distorted leaves. You'll see evidence of this sort of, you can see on this one here, this pitting, that something's been nibbling at the leaves. And so if you get more, I would say more than 2 or 3 of those things, keep in mind that it is potentially mites and potentially something extremely urgent to be treated. And even with treatment, there is no guarantee that you will save your plants. And that's the horrific, hard part. And I know there's a lot of African violet growers out there that have lost entire collections, and it's devastating. It's devastating. And I have to say, I am very upset, very upset. But it's taught me a lesson to be extremely vigilant with my plants. And I thought I was vigilant, but to be more vigilant. And that it's very easy. It can happen very easy. But hopefully with this heat treatment, it will kill the mites that are on the plants. And hopefully with some TLC over time, they will improve and recover. And they may not necessarily completely recover, but if they do recover enough that they can grow relatively healthy, then I will keep these plants. If not, then I do know a lot of people will completely destroy their collection and get rid of it. And that still may be possibly on the cards for me, but I want to try and give them as best chance as possible. So I have tried a number of things so far, and spraying. It's difficult to get it to work because they hide, and if you miss one little section under a leaf or in the crown, or you get a couple of mites that don't get hit with it, then with the poison, then you'll still have the outbreak going on. So that's why the heat treatment for me, like the hot water, will kill the mites, and in theory should not hurt the plants. That's what I've read. I've never tested this, so I can't say 100% that it will work, but I'm going to test it first, and if it does work and the plants are okay, then I will do the entire collection with it and see how it goes. So that is something you can try. I have other ideas of other methods of trying to potentially, I did think about trying to make the environment completely uncomfortable for the mites, so maybe using lemon juice or white vinegar, and I have tried that, but that won't kill the mites. That will just, that's more a pest repellent. So maybe something like that might be good as a repellent, to put on your plants maybe every couple of months, just as a repellent to make the environment uncomfortable so mites don't want to come and live on your plants. But it's not something that will actually kill them. So it's one of those terrible things that can happen, and has happened to many African violet growers throughout the world. It's just one of those things that we have to deal with, and it's very sad and devastating when it happens. But just a reminder that, to be vigilant, isolate new plants that come in, and in a separate room away from your collection. And I would be waiting 6 months. I'd be waiting 6 months before adding them to the collection. So the next video I do will be on heat treating the plants to try and get rid of the mites with hot water. And I might even pop some white vinegar in the water as well, just as like a deterrent. And I can show you how we do that, and hopefully that will save these plants and get rid of the mites, the cyclamen mites, for good. But yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I hope that it's helped, and I hope that, you know, the one good thing that perhaps can come out of this terrible situation here with my infestation that I have is that you guys will know what to look out for, what signs to look out for, and if you see those signs, catch them early and treat it early. So I hope this video has helped, and thank you for watching.